Hey guys, how's it going? Ugh. Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Arden, and today we're talking about the Suicide Squad trailer. So, yesterday when we were talking about the Snyder Cut and it was big fun, successful stream, there was quite a few questions about the Suicide Squad trailer that came out kind of around the same time. And I kind of wanted this to be a bit of a separate discussion. It's interesting enough on its own that it's worth talking about, and I don't know, I quite enjoyed the trailer. I don't generally adore trailers because they can often reveal stuff about the movie that we aren't really supposed to know, or spoil, like, just show the entire movie sometimes. Some will, like, show the best parts of the movie and focus only on that. But in the case of James Gunn and this kind of movie and the tone that we've sort of set with DC, I'm cautiously optimistic about it all. And there's a lot to talk about too. I actually have the Wikipedia page open just because there's so much. And basically, it's just worth talking about. As I guess, well, let's cover this because I don't think we've ever actually done a video on it, or if we have, it has been years and I've forgotten about it. So James Gunn, for a time, was basically fired by Disney for some old tweets that he wrote. And that's a whole discussion in and of itself that gets into the hypocrisy of Disney, because they'll, as has been recently pointed out in a video I was watching, they will cooperate with like authoritarian governments such as China while firing James Gunn, and it just doesn't make sense. But that's all old news anyways, because James Gunn ultimately was rehired, and it was silly and a blunder and really left the Guardians of the Galaxy third movie that had been planned and ready to go kind of up in the air. But that's all happening with James Gunn after he's done with Suicide Squad, which is pretty interesting overall. Like I said, it's a little bit cheeky in that Suicide Squad was kind of DC's answer to Guardians of the Galaxy, so to get the director of Guardians of the Galaxy is a little wonky, but I'm not totally against the idea either. And what I do like about it is it's still canon with the rest of the previous Suicide Squad movie. We got a whole bunch of characters returning. The biggest name, obviously, is Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. But we also have Joel Kinnaman as Rick Flag. And he kind of said this was an opportunity to kind of give his character a blank, clean slate and kind of move in a new direction. And that sounds good. Then you have Amanda Waller, Viola Davis is returning as her, and Courtney is returning as Kai Boomerang. So lots of fun, but on top of that is a whole roster of new characters. And in the main cast, it's Idris Elba as Bloodsport as the big sort of Will Smith replacement. He was apparently supposed to actually replace, what's it called? Will Smith as Deadshot, but they made him Bloodsport, which I think is way better. And even in the trailer, he has a charming little moment with Harley Quinn that I think really kind of is going to be an interesting role for Idris Elba. He feels more laid back and more fun than the typical character he plays. Apparently, he's also shot Superman with a Kryptonian bullet, and he agrees to join Task Force X, and also wants to kind of reunite with his daughter, like Deadshot. But so you can kind of tell how the role was built for Deadshot, and they just changed a few things. I'm still fascinated about that though, and curious to see how that goes. John Cena is going to be Peacemaker. Cena described him as a douchey Captain America, I'm saying here, but I think he's a fun character from what we were getting out of his little bit in the trailer, because he's talking about like he wants to make the world a better place. Like, he's an idealist even though he's like in prison for murdering people, and I think that there's a lot of interesting things one can do with that. King Shark is in this movie, and I got confused for a minute because it's like, wasn't he in the first movie? But no, that was Killer Croc, which they apparently changed for budget reasons. So now we have full-fledged King Shark, and he looks great and fun. So, oh, and then Peter Capaldi as the Thinker. And then on top of all that is all these other characters who presumably, as it's been widely speculated, and you know, it's this type of team, a lot of them are going to die. And I find that fascinating too. So overall, that's like the basic premise of it. And like initial thoughts are optimism, because James Gunn is a cool director, and even before any of this Marvel stuff, he made things like Super and wrote other pretty cool movies. I think he's the right guy for this kind of project, in spite of my like slight misgivings of that, because there are plenty of other right people out there to direct the Suicide Squad. But if it's a way to show up Disney for their stupidity in firing James Gunn for a time, that's okay. Apparently there's also going to be an HBO Max movie with John Cena starring in it, and that's awesome, especially if it takes on a similar attitude to the kind of casual comedy of James Gunn and his writing, because he does write these movies too. Okay, so let's switch back to chat, because I haven't even watched that. And Henry Brown donated $5, which is awesome. He says, yes, indeed, Suicide Squad. Then if they come with Task Force X or Justice Guild, the comic book movies will dominate, I hope. And you know what? A lot of people are excited about this, and I am too. I have no reason not to be. I've never wanted to hate these DC movies because I'm a DC fan. But so many of them have had misgivings. But to be fair, I've been pretty optimistic ever since Shazam. I liked Shazam, even if not everyone did. And I think a lot of people are going to like this movie just like the Guardian of the Galaxy movies. There will probably be a certain heart to the Suicide Squad that was lacking in its predecessor, because you had a terrible director and now we have a fantastic one. And Idris Elba's great and has a far more reliable track record than Will Smith at this point. So I'm optimistic is the best way to put it. And when you have a good director who actually gives a crap about what he's doing, it makes all the difference in the world. And we just learned that basically with the Zack Snyder cut of the Justice League. Oh, right. Okay. I'll get to your chat there, John McCartney, but that was my reaction to it there, because I buried the lead. There's one real exciting bit I've kind of left out. Darkseid, hello, thank you for joining us as always. Darkseid is. The Shadowcatcher says, so glad they got rid of Will Smith. Now, I did just mildly criticize... Oh, by the way, Henry Brown, thank you very much for the $5. I really appreciate that. I did dig a little bit at Will Smith there, but that's just kind of in comparison to Idris Elba. If we're going to get Idris Elba instead, yeah, that's a good replacement. But I didn't have, much against Will Smith as Deadshot. I don't think he was the weakest part of that movie by any measure. John McCartney says, Stallone is voicing King Shark. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that. That's really cool too. And the other thing I forgot to mention, and that thank you for pointing out, Starro is straight up in the trailer. And that's, yes, the giant version of Starro, which is so cool and feels very appropriate to James Gunn when you think of stuff that he's done before in his style of humor, like the opening of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I hope the finale is built around Starro. We only get a little glimpse of him, but we have Steve and Aggie going like, oh, we got a kaiju on our hands. I think that was him saying that line. And that is Starro for sure. And that's so exciting. And they confirmed that actually on the Wikipedia page, so it has to be true. So, yeah, overall, very excited about this trailer, and I think it'll be a good one. We'll definitely cover it when it comes out. Tevye Smoka, thanks for joining us in chat. Beyond that, I guess, like I'll say, it's going to be released and streaming in the US August 6, 2021. And hopefully that's true of Canada too. So it's not even that far away at this point. And this year is going to be very interesting for DC. And I think someone yesterday said, oh, they're dropping all this news around the Snyder Cut to distract from the Snyder Cut. I don't think that's the case. I think they're capitalizing on the success and hype surrounding the Snyder Cut. And as such, they're really kind of trying to capitalize on the properties coming out this year. With that, we have the Suicide Squad also coming on HBO Max, and that's apparently the plan for Warner Brothers major movies this year, which has me curious about how all their stuff's going to come out, and that will be interesting just because it'll be very accessible then, and hopefully that'll be available in Canada somehow. But also there's the potential for like the future. And we have the Flash movie and Aquaman 2 coming out. I'm checking this because I actually wasn't sure. Next year in 2022. And then in 2023 is Shazam! Fury of the Gods. And the Black Adam movie is just to be announced, apparently. But I think this is all a step in the right direction. I would actually like to see maybe a bit of a bump in this production, because I feel like they could be outputting more, to be honest, if they want to actually catch up with Marvel, because sooner or later, and Disney's already talked about doing something with Black Widow, I don't know the exact details, that MCU stuff's going to come back a-roaring. We already have The Falcon and the Winter Soldier and WandaVision, both kind of actively being a thing. Whoa, this is cool. So Tevye says, August 6th is actually near my birthday because my birthday is August 18th, so that'll be a cool birthday for you. I thought you were going to say that it was going to be August 6th, and that'd be a cool birthday. That's someone's birthday, and that'd be a fun, like, kind of activity. If that were mine, that's like pre-planned, I feel almost. Tevye says, I'm so happy about Starro being in the movie, which is really awesome. Yeah, I think that was the part that actually had me most excited, even though I forgot to say that in my initial blurb. Out of all the trailer bits, and there's a lot of stuff to be excited about, it's even actually kind of cool seeing Harley Quinn in this way. It feels like, oh, this is what it's like having someone like James Gunn directing her as Harley Quinn, and I'm suddenly a lot more excited. John McCartney says, I wonder if Pattinson makes an appearance as Batman in this movie. I really don't think that Batman has anything to do with the DCU Batman. You'll notice I was kind of just reading off the DCEU schedule, which doesn't include the Batman in it, because that's sort of supposed to be its own side thing, like the Joker movie. I am so optimistic about that Pattinson thing, though. I really would hope that, if it's a hit, if it works, why not? They need a new Batman, because I doubt Affleck's interested anymore. However, maybe all this Snyder Cut business, and if Snyder actually does return to the DCEU, that's suddenly a different story. Who knows? It also feels like there's just a lot of room for them to be announcing more stuff in that schedule I just said. You compare it to Marvel, and the plan goes like with way more movies farther into the future as well. So it's curious. Hank Moody says, I'd like the Batman TV. Oh, I'd like a Batman TV series with Ben Affleck. Well, that'd be cool, but that dude's a big name, and he seems so disgruntled and frustrated with Warner Brothers and how all that stuff went down, that unless they really are able to convince him or put it in writing that they're not going to do that anymore, I don't know. I think he's not inclined to be that involved at this point, and he somehow got out of it. So I doubt he's going to get back into it. Tevye says, I think Black Widow is going to be on Disney Plus as well. I believe that's true. But the problem is you're going to have to pay $30, which is stupid. I actually agree. Although, the larger your household is, the more lucrative that $30 price deal is. So I do understand it. My hope is that increasingly we'll just be able to see these movies in theaters, because I actually think a lot of them do kind of benefit from that experience. Maybe not like a 4-hour cut of a movie, but it would be nice if that were back on the table. The other cool thing is with HBO Max and Disney Plus kind of butting heads like this, I feel like there's a lot of potential for them to greenlight some cool stuff for both platforms. Already, this John Cena Peacemaker series sounds super interesting, though we're going to have to wait until next year for it. I think I would empathize with that, I guess is what I'm saying. Tevye says, I would be frustrated as well with Warner Brothers given their track record. Yeah, I agree. If I were in Ben Affleck's position, given all that went down, the only way I would return is if I had the option to, number one, leave at any point I desire, in the sense of maybe not in the middle of production, but if he wants to not appear in any more movies as Batman, he has the option to do so without any financial penalty. Number two, no more hijinks with directors and stuff like that, and maybe even in writing that we stick to the original plan, and I get to direct my own Batman movie. Zack Snyder gets to do his own thing, and we actually go with what had all been lined up until you guys ruined it. But I don't know if that's where Ben Affleck's head is at the moment. And honestly, I'm a little more optimistic about Robert Pattinson at this point, and would rather them just sort of dark horse that Batman into the story somehow. I like that's the kind of thing I feel the audience can just let go of at this point. But who knows? And I think I'm being a little overexcited for what DCEU can do relative to what they're going to do. Tevye says, I do miss going to the movie theaters, though. Well, people talk a lot about the death of theaters, but if they can actually survive through this pandemic, I think people, like, I feel this. I generally get the sense that, like, when those theaters are going to open up, people are going to want to go back to the movie theaters. So hopefully that isn't just, like, done forever. The way, like, but some reviewers will have you convinced that's, like, not only the case, but that's what should happen. And while I don't love the price gouging nature of movie theaters, there's a lot of options for that sort of thing. And not all theaters have to be like that, right? John McCartney says, Warner Brothers has a track record of meddling in films, hence the call for the Ayer cut. Well, there is an Ayer cut of Suicide Squad, and it's not much better. I don't think David Ayer is a very good director. Look at something like Bright. He sucks, to be honest. I don't like them. I haven't seen a movie by him. I'm like, oh yeah, this is solid. Like, unless I'm forgetting about one that he's done that I like, because suddenly that's sounding like the case to me. Hang on a second. And that also gets into, like, Suicide Squad was the third movie in the DCEU, and that was too damn early. It would have been a lot more fun and interesting if we had actually gotten more of a taste of these characters. And I think the Suicide Squad is already benefiting from this. Because now it's like, oh, cool. All these old Suicide Squad characters are back. They're maybe setting up something where, like, it explains why Superman's kind of out of commission for a while. And, like, until Henry Cavill does return in these movies, or whatever the plan is, or why there isn't going to be a Superman movie. And you can kind of build up on things. No, I'm not seeing any super important movie on here. But I do agree Warner Brothers in general does have this trend and has really hampered their own cinematic universe, not just in terms of, like, how they have affected these cuts, because all of these movies have benefited from a director's cut, because Suicide Squad is better as its extended edition as opposed to its non-extended edition, for example. Tevye says he agrees with Warner Brothers screwing over David Ayer's Suicide Squad movie and just made it sad and depressing. Well, and that's true. And we don't know what changes happened pre-production. It's just David Ayer doesn't seem all that talented based on the other movies by him I've seen. And I just went through the list to make sure I hadn't forgotten anything. John McCartney says he's going to be in the Flash movie, I believe, still, and he said he did Fury. Well, and I saw he wrote, like, the original Fast and the Furious movie, so it's not like he's terrible. Okay. Maybe I shouldn't be so skeptical then. You guys are making some good points, and I'm judging someone not knowing what went down during Suicide Squad's production, and we do know that a lot of crap went down during Justice League's production now, so you're right. But who knows what was actually shot. I don't know if David Ayer spoke about it the way Zack Snyder is, because Zack Snyder outright said, like, no, there's a whole movie, like, on the table there that's nothing like the Justice League movie, and he proved right. But I don't think that's the case with other stuff, like these other like with Suicide Squad. I never heard anything like that, for example. Tevye says, I heard Michael Keaton wasn't going to be in the Flash movie anymore. Aw, man, that's a real bummer. I hope that's not true, just because that sounds fun as hell. But we don't know a lot of details of that Flash movie. Again, kind of feels like a movie that should have come out way before Justice League, but oh well. The only cool thing about that maybe is that it kind of lets us get some of the basics of the Flash out of the way. However, I feel the movie will be perhaps correctly compelled to kind of bring that stuff up again and be like, oh yeah, his dad's in jail because of this. This is Iris. He saved her one time, because that was Iris in the Snyder cut, right? And et cetera, et cetera. But yeah. So, this is just a trailer review, so I think I'll cut it off there. But thanks for watching, guys. Tomorrow I'm going to review something not DC, because we don't usually double up like this, but there was just enough attention to it, and I figured no matter what I did, I'd end up talking about this. So thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time here on Comic Island.